You are listening to a White Phosphorus Pictures podcast.
Broadcasting under the night sky from the edge of an undisclosed jungle on the Gulf of Mexico, I'm Christopher Garitano, your voice in the night. For the next hour, allow me to be your guide into the bizarre unknown, the fantastic macabre, and together we'll journey to that borderland between fiction and reality, a place beyond all rational explanation. We are now off to the witch. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Off to the Witch newsletter. It is August 2024. The world seems to be in chaos, and my suggestion to everybody is to just keep your heads on tight. Don't lose it. Don't lose your mind in regard to what's coming, whether it be political theatrics or world chaos. Try to stay sane throughout this. This is another battle that we're caught in the middle of by, in my opinion, some very irresponsible people that shouldn't be in charge. But enough of that political garbage. Let's move on to things that stimulate our imagination, that inspire us. And my inspiration right now is that I'm simultaneously in the home stretch of completing the very first feature-length special in my new docuseries. I'm calling it Off to the Witch Presents, but each one stands on its own legs. The very first that will be released is called A Haunting We Will Go. And I feel like one of my favorite subjects, and probably yours as well, the idea of ghosts and hauntings, has been misrepresented for quite some time. I think it was better when certain things were kept a mystery and people actually had storytelling skills and allowed people to tell their own personal accounts of these things that we can't explain. Things that go bump in the night, voices in the darkness, in the whispering wind. Ghost stories have been told since the dawn of human existence. And there's such an incredible variety in it. It challenges our idea of this finite mortality, which I personally don't believe there is. Now, there have been an elevated way of thinking since then that we're living on some kind of multi-dimensional existence. It's not simply just a ghost. It's not just the spirit of something that once lived in a human body. People have considered a variety of things. And so I think coupled with that very traditional way of telling a ghost story and some of that elevated thinking that we've achieved over the years, and in some cases, in ancient times, people have thought this way. I think they had less distractions and more time to contemplate their own existence. And so this isn't anything new. However, I think it's been quite misrepresented by essentially TV networks that are just cashing in on a game show style approach to something that I think they completely miss the beat and miss the atmosphere and technique and the art of storytelling, which doesn't exist in a lot of these ghost shows. So I could have approached a variety of subject matter for the very first docuspecial, but I chose that broad topic of ghosts and hauntings. And because I wanted to offer something fresh and also bring us back to the tradition of good storytelling, atmospheric storytelling, spooky tales that we grew up with that caught our interest in the first place. So A Haunting We Will Go has so much in it. And the story expanded over the production period. I started with several tales and locations, and as documentary filmmaking occurs, things evolve while you're creating something. So right now, I'm in the depths of post-production. And in that, much like I did with the network shows, they sometimes are writing new things as they go. And in this case, I would say sometime around last year, and I've talked about this before, a new story chapter opened up possibilities. Something that really caught my attention that occurred when Dave Spinks was visiting from West Virginia, and I was interviewing him, and we none of us expected this story to open up, but it did. And I had to make the crucial decision of the film as a filmmaker and director and writer of this thing to allow that story in or not. And I decided to do it. And it's a beautiful story. It's a haunting story, much like all of the others in the docu special. Now that I'm in the home stretch of this, and I also have a network project happening simultaneously that I can't really tell details of, but it's enormous in its own right. And I am the writer and executive producer and originator of this project. But now I'm collaborating with a lot of people. And so between these two projects, Off to the Witch needs to go on a slight hiatus for the next couple of months or so. I need to finish A Haunting We Will Go in the midst of all this other work for the network project. And there's only so much time in a day. So I don't want to reduce quality of this podcast. So what I'm probably going to do after this newsletter is every now and then, if I feel like I have the time, I'll deliver a quality episode with a guest. And I do have several guests lined up that are just fantastic. But I need these hours and this time because this new story chapter for A Haunting We Will Go opened up the doors now for new recreations and, you know, these cinematic moments and other vignettes that need to be photographed. So I have to go, actually, I'm simultaneously in post and production, which isn't anything rare for this type of movie making. Even for networks, we were out shooting while the editing was happening simultaneously. So it's not out of the ordinary at all. And, you know, this project means so much to me that it's done right, that it's really something spectacular when I deliver it to you. And I would say there'd probably be a final cut by the end of October. However, then it needs to go into a stage of refinement, professional coloring, sound mixing, and then I need to go into a phase where I'm designing the marketing and how it's being released. And so that it has to go to festivals after that, and it has to be designed for its marketing for months. You know, it takes months to do that stuff. And I don't have a big team with me on that particular project. You know, for a network project, you have a machine where, you know, 50, 60 people are all working on a salary all at once, and all of that stuff is happening simultaneously. Even though on Strange World, I was working more than I ever had in my life in a short period of time, you know, in a year's time. It was intense. But in this case, this show is ran by me mostly, with a lot of good people pitching in their time to help. And I want to honor not only the audience for you when this thing finally comes out. I want something that you can watch and rewatch for years to come. That was the whole idea. This wasn't some disposable episode where, you know, a bunch of people were running around in a house and watching little devices light up. There's ghost hunters in this, but it's not like that. It's different, and that was the whole idea. I wanted to offer something fresh and different to you, something well crafted, and finally, we're here. Now, in addition to being in post production on A Haunting We Will Go, and in addition to the network project I'm currently working on, I'm also finishing up Monsters Among Us, which probably the title will change because other people have used that title so much that I think I'm a creative guy. We'll come up with something better. But that is the second feature-length chapter in this new docu-series, and a completely different subject matter. Most of it is shot. There's a couple more scenes I have to shoot, and I'm actually going away in sometime in September to do that. And then I have to shoot the recreations, and as soon as A Haunting We Will Go is complete, Monsters Among Us will be in its final stages of post-production as well, to be finished. and so on and so forth. After that, I have several more planned. And, this is years in the making. I came up with the idea of doing these things in 2020 and have been working on them in one capacity or another since then. There were other projects in between, and of course, this podcast and a lot of other things happened. But we're finally here, and it's an exciting time, and the launch of this is so important. A Haunting We Will Go has a Halloween theme to it. It's something that's synonymous with the ghost stories to me, and that's why I grew up cherishing that time of year. Lived in a seasonal climate in the northeastern United States. I was in New York. I was in the suburbs of New York, upstate New York, and it's just the epitome of the autumn season. And one of the greatest ghost stories, and to this day, a ghost story that I love, is Washington Irving's Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And I grew up with that story. I grew up with variations of that story. The Disney adaptation is one of my all-time favorites. Obsessed with it. It's such a short piece of work, but it's beautiful and it's immortal. And I think it goes to show, when you care about something, when you're inspired, when you're putting that type of quality into something. Irving's story, isn't this mammoth book. It's just this beautifully written thing that resonated with people whose imaginations are inspired by the possibilities of what's out there in the shadows, what might be lurking. We have this fascination. I think it's inherent. I think we're born with this fascination because we are alive and we know things die. And I think part of it is hoping that there's something after this. And then the other is just this sheer curiosity and fear of death. And the rest of it's a mystery. And I love that it's a mystery. And I think when it's approached like a game show, and it's approached with no emotion whatsoever outside of filling the pockets of the morons that try to cash in on these things, we're depleting all of the most incredible ghost stories and perspectives on that. Everything from Washington Irving to Hans Holzer, to Stephen King, to Edgar Allan Poe. I don't see any of that poetry, that literature, or that art in these ghost shows. I think they're just trash, in my opinion. So with this new series of documentaries, I'm offering, and I might be, there are some more esoteric subjects and things that you haven't seen covered before, but there are also traditional ideas, ghost stories, perspectives on monsters that I think need a shot in the arm, that I think need to be revived, need to be represented properly for the audience. Now, I feel like the pendulum had swung in a different direction, and the bar was lowered, and now the bar is going to be raised again, just up ahead. I think once we get past the chaos of what's happening now, and it does affect people's consciousness, everybody is starving, literally starving for something better, for better quality in everything, for people to represent themselves with not only self-respect, but respect for the audience and respect for the work they're creating. I see a lack of that right now, and so people talk about work that's important. Well, inspiration is important. To me, it's one of the most important things. So if it's done in the form of a monster movie or a ghost story, it's just as important as making a story about an oppressed village somewhere in the world. Truly, I love all types of genres of movies, dramas, historical adaptations, perspectives. I read a lot, and I always have. But I have a lot of life experience too. I've been through a lot in my life so far, and I have a lot to offer in the work of this genre, to approach it with that perspective. And I think when you're seeing vacant work, especially these shows on TV, just completely vacant. It's made by committee. You have some jackass at the helm that just, wants to get rich. Why would we make these people rich? Why? They're not helping us. I don't care about their success. Who cares? They shouldn't be successful in making work that lowers the bar and lowers your consciousness. So to raise consciousness can be done in many ways. It can be done philosophically, or it could be done with an incredible piece of artwork that inadvertently raises your consciousness, because you are so inspired consciously and subconsciously when you're seeing something that's beautifully made, that was made with the intent to reach you emotionally, visually, philosophically, all of those things. So my intent, no matter what, is to put all of that into this new series. And I am excited about releasing the first volume to you, and I'm doing it right. In the past, when I originally released Montauk Chronicles 10 years ago, or almost 10 years ago, that I was in a difficult position. I couldn't release it properly. And what I'm saying is that, like, I didn't really have time to take it to festivals. I didn't have time to market it. It was completely grassroots, everything I did. And I had pre-sold downloads and Blu-rays and DVDs, and I had to get it out to the people that ordered it. So I was in a position where I couldn't release it properly. And this new series will be released properly. This is a decade later. I've made television shows in between, and learned a lot about movie making and television production, and learned a lot about people along the way. And so being in full creative control of this was the greatest thing. It was worth more than any salary. I made this with not getting paid. I haven't paid myself. This whole series, launching it, as a pure labor of love. Down the road, of course, it's going to benefit me, but I put in all of the risk, all of the time. The people that put themselves out and worked with me on the days that we had production are wonderful people. And I'm collaborating with artists right now to complete it. Everything from the music to artwork that appears in the film, that helps promote the film in terms of the poster art. I am trying to find the best people to complete this thing and launch every new episode. So I have my work cut out for me in the next few months, and I will probably check in every now and then with a newsletter. But between now and the Halloween special, which I want to be extraordinary this year, I'll probably not have many newsletters or anything, because I don't want to reduce quality on this show. I have big plans for Off to the Witch, and Off to the Witch will simultaneously be promoted. This new docuseries is being made with imagination, with craft work, and attention to detail and ideas, and certainly going deeper in the philosophy and thought about things. And that also, the new chapter that unfolded epitomizes that, in my opinion. And it's almost a reapproach to the same subject matter that's been done over the last 20 years, but a completely different interpretation. And that happens within motion pictures as well. You can have, just like you see, everyone says, like, the sequels are so bad to the original in terms of its comparison. And it's true. It does depend on the artists that are creating the work. And when it becomes just a way to cash in on an idea, and that's all it is, you get garbage. Unfortunately, the people, I don't even want to say powers that be, the people that somehow got a handle on the control of what you were seeing on these television shows, they don't care. The people that are making it and working really hard to make it, once it's out of their hands, it's in the decision-making process of other people. There are a lot of good TV shows being made, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is, in this particular genre, they are few and far between, and the ones that actually are good are pushed aside in favor of what they think is tried and true. But they don't realize they're on a sinking ship and the thing's about to go down, and that's a good thing. We need the pendulum to swing back in the other direction. I love this storytelling. I love it so much that I dedicated my life to making it. So, this isn't a business for me that just came about and I was doing other things and I saw it as a way to cash in. This has been my interests since I was a child. So, and now I'm doing it for a living, and now I care about it, and I want to give you the best I can give you. And that's only going to continue and evolve as the years go on. And so, and that's going to happen with this podcast as well. Now it's a crucial time. Now I'm about to launch this series, and it's the first series that I've launched since Strange World, and it's also the first independently made work since I completed Montauk Chronicles a decade ago. And that was done on an absolute shoestring budget. This is done with more experience and a little bit more I put into it over the years, of course, because I feel like in one way I have a lot to prove to myself that this could be done and could be done better outside of the network system with less money. And that doesn't show on the screen. You know, there is a cookie cutter way of how things are done on these particular programs over and over and over again. It's alike. And I feel bad for a lot of the artists that try to work within that system, especially these days. But that's going to change again. And what you do is you force them to change. You show something to the world that is better. And they're going to start to change their format once they see that thing making money, essentially, because that's all they see. And so they judge quality on the quantity of people that are watching or the amount of money it's making at the moment, but that's not always the case. And a lot of that's manipulated behind the scenes, how they advertise it to you, how they shove it down your throat. Even the advertising on these networks, over and over and over again, they're going to shove commercials at you for things that you didn't ask for, but they're telling you this is what you're going to see. And unfortunately, people get caught in the loop of watching those things. So this entire series that's about to be released, starting with A Haunting We Will Go, is meant to change that. I said these things when I was making Strange World. Maybe it disturbed a few people in the network system that I said my intention was to change the form. That wasn't a bad thing. That was a good thing. I want to change the form of these things. They've been done to death in the worst possible way, and it's time to change it. That only elevates your consciousness, your perspective, your artistic perspective, your inspiration, and storytelling itself is preserved, the art of storytelling. Whether it's a true story or not, it's still storytelling. And what I've seen is just a misrepresentation of that, very irresponsibly, very sloppy. All of these things are being done, and they can say what they will about good work, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what lasts and what people are watching for years to come and what's not disposable is what will stand the test of time. And so that needs my full attention right now, and I appreciate my steady listeners coming in. Off to the Witch podcast is not going anywhere. It's only going to evolve. I have major plans for it, but right now, over the next couple of months, this docuseries and this network project that I'm working on needs my attention. And I'm going to give it my full attention, and I don't want to reduce any quality on the Off to the Witch podcast. It's only going to increase in quality so as we go forward. And I will return. Maybe I'll pop in with a newsletter in September to say hello and tell you what's going on. And let's get excited for everything that's coming. As A Haunting We Will Go, and its release date is forthcoming. I'm probably going to have some kind of interesting presentation around Halloween time for the people that are paying attention, but I need the months forthcoming to design a good marketing plan for this. In other words, it deserves it. It deserves its time to be shown, its delicate release, very well planned, and that takes months and another big investment on my part, which right now the actual show needs my attention. So it's not going to be available for streaming on Halloween. However, I will release some scenes, a fun new trailer for the Halloween season. But the difference between now and any other time that I've talked about this project is that it really is at the finish line. In terms of its making, it needed a delicate touch. It needed attention, the right attention, and now it's almost there. We're almost there, and it's exciting. And sometimes the people that you work with or some people that you interview feel like they've been forgotten or left behind. That even happens on network projects, because a network project with millions behind it takes years. From development to release, and even though that was very quick, I think Strange World was a matter of 2 years almost. And that's with, millions behind it and a lot of people working on full salaries. All professionals working on a full salary, it even takes years. The Dark Files, which I made for History Channel, was a huge collaboration, probably $1 million budget. And it took from development to its release about 2 years. And that's just how it goes with good work. A season of something like Ghost Adventures, I mean, they're just popping those things out because it's the same format. It's these dudes running around a house acting scared. I think they just, honestly, from when I watch a show like that, I see a bunch of bored guys. They're getting paid way too much to do way too little, and it's boring. And they're bored. You can tell they're bored. They're bored of what they do. I'm bored of what they do. So if you're bored of what they do, you have a lot to look forward to because I have this new series on the horizon that is going to obliterate any of these things. And hopefully, what I hope to do is inspire some of these makers to do the same, add their own style. I do see a few independent people doing that. That's exciting to me because, we're all brothers and sisters in this art form, and we want to reach the audience, which is us, the best filmmakers, the best producers of television. We're always admirers of the work. We're always the audience to begin with. When you're not the audience, you're just some jerk sitting around a boardroom trying to make some money for yourself. And I don't care what you're making for yourself. Who cares? And you're not going to take it with you, pal, So I care about the audience. And of course I care about it doing well. But my greatest care, clearly, is about making the best possible program, inspiring the audience. Yes, I care more about that than anything else. And so that's what we're doing here, and I'm going to give it my full attention. And I thank you so much for listening to this newsletter. I have some good guests lined up for future episodes of Off to the Witch, but I can't dedicate to this schedule, the normal schedule right now. I have to give my full time to A Haunting We Will Go and also the work I'm doing for this network project, which I can't wait to tell you about, but I by contract, I'm not allowed to. So I will check in with you. I will say hello. This is for my steady listeners, but there's a big future ahead for this podcast and for all the documentaries attached to this brand and all the films and books that will be attached to this brand. It's all coming, and it's finally here. I needed to get it to a point where the format of this new docuseries really is the train that's taking everything forward, and I wanted it to be the greatest possible example of this genre. And I believe it is, at least in the beginning, and it's only going to get better from here. So I thank all of my steady listeners for checking in with me and cheering on this podcast and supporting it. There's a lot up ahead. Stay tuned. And if you miss me in the meantime, backtrack to about 100 episodes and enjoy them if you haven't heard all of them. And if you have, I will check in with you soon. I thank you so much. Stay tuned for a lot. There's so much up ahead. This is only the beginning for Off to the Witch, for White Phosphorus Pictures. Everything in the future, it's a bright, wonderful horizon, and I'll be putting nothing less than 100% in everything I make going forward. And this is for you, and this is for me, and I look forward to it. And I thank you, and I will be back soon. Take care.